What's up, Summoners? My name is Irene, and today we're going to be talking about the best champions to Onetrick in patch 2.1b. Now, for one reason or another, playing these champions will provide a feeling of great satisfaction and teach you about many different aspects of the game. We're gonna have 2 champions per role, so if you're looking to find a new champion to play over and over and over again, then these are the ones that we recommend you guys pick up. But before we jump into things, we have our question of the day. How many hours of Wild Rift have you guys been playing a week? Are you more of a casual player just taking it slow, or have you been grinding it out and improving as fast as you can? We love hearing what you guys have to say. Now, let's get into the video. We'll begin with the Baron lane, with FIORA. FIORA is one of the most satisfying champions to duel with and has the power to become an absolute monster. Her kit has auto attack animation cancels, dashes, lifesteal, and even an ultimate that prioritizes a single target. This makes her incredibly versatile, with outplay potential for almost every circumstance in the game. Learning the nuances of her passive, which provide her vital spots to hit and heal off of, can make her incredibly stubborn to kill. But be warned, these vitals can potentially bait you into engaging into a dangerous situation. Only by playing her over and over again can you really learn which vitals you should go for and how to reach them. FIORA is not a simple point-and-click champion, so one-tricking FIORA is not going to be easy. Before you understand how to maximize your plays and learn your personal limits on FIORA, you're probably going to feed. I know that I have. But only by pushing past this, by making and learning from those mistakes, can you begin to master FIORA. If you really want to one-trick her, don't give up. She's easily one of the most mechanically demanding champions in the game, and one-tricking FIORA will allow players to learn many of the necessary skills needed for a melee champion, including auto-attack canceling, positioning, and even surviving in fights. For those who master playing the Grand Duelist, learning other melee champions should become a breeze. Playing her is hard at first, but keep practicing and break past your limits. Keep training, guys. Vegeta didn't become Super Saiyan by simply yearning for it. He trained till he bled, questioned his entire heritage, and cursed the world. Your hard work will be rewarded. If you need additional help finding a champion to play, be sure to check out our Choosing a Main Champion video shown here. The second champion for the Baron lane is AKALI. She's debatably easier than FIORA, but with both champions playing fundamentally differently, the comparison is hard to make. As an AP assassin that relies on gap closers and invisibility to sneak in and acquire kills, playing against a great AKALI can be incredibly frustrating. While FIORA plays to be fancy, dashing around everywhere at incredible speeds, AKALI plays in a way to confuse and startle the enemy. The female ninja's kit is not entirely intuitive at first, and understanding how to effectively engage the enemy can be tricky, especially with the enemy frontline in the way during teamfights. But playing AKALI is surprisingly relatively forgiving, especially with the usage of her invisibility. Simply hide away from enemy sight and escape when you mess up. If at first you don't succeed, simply keep trying. Her fundamental positioning isn't the most conventional, as she needs to sneak around and try her best to be untouchable. One-tricking this champion will teach you how to get in the enemy's head and play the pivotal role of an assassin. Understanding this is very applicable to every role in the game, as by knowing the assassin's mindset, you can not only play other assassins like Zed, but you also learn to counter them as well with support champions like JANNA and ALISTAR. And these are the champions that we'll be discussing next. But before we move on to the support picks, be sure to check out our community Discord. Join in on the fun discussing Wild Rift. JANNA is up next as one of the 2 support picks on our list. With a point-and-click shield and an area of effect heal in her kit, her skills really aren't the most mechanically demanding. What makes her rewarding to play, however, is the undeniably massive utility that she provides in a team fight. Playing the champion requires players to analyze the flow of the map, understanding key variables in teamfight compositions. All of her skills have the potential to help a teammate, but without much experience, these abilities have a high potential of just being wasted. One-tricking her forces you to play preemptively, balancing aggressive crowd control and peeling for your team, attempting to counterplay the enemy's engages and damage. JANNA players should always be thinking about how else they can help their team. Take, for example, you see a teammate die to Lee Sin engage. At that point, you think to yourself, I think I could have prevented that if I utilized my tornado faster. In future games, keep trying to deny that Lee Sin engage. Before long, you'll manage to consistently knock him up before he makes impact with your ADC. The more you play her, the more of these counter plays you'll start to see around the map. She is a prime champion to Onetrick if you're looking for an enchanter support. And those, they aren't others. The prime stake champion, ALISTAR, stands at the opposite end of the spectrum for support champions. He also revolves around helping his teammates, but instead of relying on providing heals and standing far back, his kit relies on being super brave and courageous, diving into the entire enemy team at pinnacle moments. The cow doesn't provide much in terms of damage, but he's one of, if not the best, support tank champion that's currently out right now in Wild Rift. When you play him at first, you might mess up his headbutt pulverize combo, pushing the enemy away rather than keeping them still. This combo is a staple know-how for all ALISTAR players, but don't let the small learning curve deter you from practicing him over and over. The rewards for hitting this combo are incredibly high, potentially knocking up multiple enemy champions. Learning to play ALISTAR will teach you how to not only frontline, but also pushes the player to read the tides of a team fight while directly in charge of the flow of battle. ALISTAR is an engage machine, so spamming him will allow players to learn about the mechanics and necessary thought process of a proper engage. This knowledge is very applicable to every champion, and will, without a doubt, allow players to grow overall. Moving on to the Dragon lane, first up we have DRAVEN. DRAVEN's gameplay is a balancing act, requiring players to make split-second decisions in regards to whether or not they want to catch a spinning axe. These axes' positioning can be controlled by the player themselves, but in doing so, the player needs to consider which direction yields a positional advantage. These axe-catching mechanics, alongside the pressures of making the entire game target him, make him an incredibly difficult champion to play and master. For most beginners, you'll almost definitely die while trying to pick up an axe that you shouldn't have been going for. But with each death, with each missed axe, playing DRAVEN allows players to practice balancing the pros and cons of a situation. Each spinning axe he catches, DRAVEN acquires bonus gold on his next takedown, making him one of the most rewarding champions to play aggressively. By always having to think about positional advantages alongside the snowball potential of a play, one-tricking DRAVEN helps players get more comfortable with the aggressive playstyle needed to push a lead. After one-tricking him, his aggressive playstyle and thought process of weighing each situation will bleed into other roles. And the thing about playing aggressively is, you have to learn to do so to improve at Wild Rift. Passive style playing will only get you so far. The next ADC we have is KAISA. Her playstyle is a lot safer than DRAVEN's, and she reaches her power spikes in the mid to late stages of the game. KAISA's kit is relatively straightforward, pressing the first ability to deal damage, the third to walk faster to avoid damage, and the second ability to snipe or add in extra DPS. Her ultimate can be used both defensively or offensively, providing a gap closer alongside a shield, but this depends on the circumstances of the team fight. For those who need to learn kiting and auto-attacking with ranged champions, KAISA is the champion to pick up. Kiting is the only way to successfully play her, as she doesn't have crowd control or any advantages in her kit for being at melee range. If you're finding yourself always in a smackable range as KAISA, you're probably playing her wrong, and you're probably going to die. Her abilities aren't particularly hard to use either. Practically all you have to do on KAISA is auto-attack as much as possible without dying. Of course, the first time you play her, you might get the not dying portion down, but you might be too afraid to actually deal damage. The more you play her, the more you should challenge yourself to look for the gaps in the enemy team where you can stand safely while hacking away at their health. As a hyper late game carry, one-tricking KAISA will, without a doubt, boost your knowledge of closing out a game. Next up is jungle. We'll begin by talking about Evelynn, a menace who has been terrifying players on Wild Rift. Her kit is incredibly unique, granting her invisibility after learning her ultimate. First-time players on Evelynn will most likely find themselves confused in regards to maximizing her damage, either rushing in or engaging at a less than optimal position. Evelynn has a pretty set-in-stone method for most of her engages: charm the enemy, deal tons of damage, and ult out if necessary. The timing and damage numbers on her skills will definitely take some getting used to, but one-tricking Evelynn and maximizing her play will be incredibly rewarding in the long run. Abusing her invisibility allows her to sneak up on unsuspecting targets and burst them down in a matter of seconds. But this feat is only possible if you understand map positioning. One-tricking Evelynn really makes the importance of map awareness evident. The more ganks you do as Evelynn while cloaked in invisibility, the more you'll realize exactly how players position when they are unsuspecting of a gank. Moving to adjust for such movements helps you learn about what angles and mechanics are necessary for a successful gank. This knowledge is applicable to every champion, as ganking mechanics are super important for team plays. But of course, not every champion has an incredibly overpowered invisibility. So one-tricking Evelynn is like learning how to gank with training wheels. Our next jungler is Lee Sin. I know we talk about him a lot in our videos lately, but well, that's because he's simply put a fantastic pick. From 2 gap closers, an area of effect crowd control, a slow, and even fast auto attack resets, there's really no reason to not play him. But be warned, if you don't know how to jungle and path properly, Lee Sin's strengths can go to waste. Playing him forces players to either learn to jungle or be useless trying. He's one of the most versatile champions and without a doubt, the strongest early game jungler in Wild Rift, but only if you really grow accustomed to his kit. Mastering Lee Sin takes many games, and even after you feel like you've mastered him, there's always room for improvement. With so many different abilities to keep track of and so much versatility built into his kit, Lee Sin really allows players to show their individuality through their play. There's no set way to play him, with an incredibly vast amount of combos in his arsenal, making him one of the greatest champions to one-trick. He's an engage machine, an assassin, potentially a tank, all built into one. We'll definitely have more videos talking about specifics on how to play him, so be sure to look out for those. Last but definitely not least, we have our mid lane picks to one-trick, starting off with Orianna. Her abilities rely on moving her ball around. It doesn't sound very powerful or rewarding, but the versatile utility of her ball movement truly makes her a force to be reckoned with. There's a reason she's featured on our OP picks. As a team fighting machine, Orianna's Command Shockwave is one of the greatest, most satisfying ultimates in the game. This skill alone is enough incentive to main her. When playing her at first, you may mistime her ultimate ability, whiffing it completely. But don't worry, that's quite common, even in the higher elos. Mastering this ability means acquiring an eye for enemy team movement along with your own positioning. The moment they clump up is the moment you should use your ultimate for devastating damage and crowd control. This eye, this observation of enemy behavior, is critical for all area of effect ultimates that provide crowd control, such as Amumu's, Wukong's, and even Malphite's. The advantage to Orianna, however, is that you don't necessarily have to go in yourself. As you continue to get more accustomed to her kit, your knowledge of playing a caster mage will increase, making champions like Ahri and Ziggs more friendly to try out thereafter. In addition, thanks to her ability to provide a barrier and speed buffs to allies, her kit is surprisingly similar to caster supports, making one-tricking Orianna provide a lot of advantageous know-hows for the game. And finally, we have Katarina, a stark contrast from Orianna. Katarina dashes around the map, reliant on closing in on enemies, but she has no crowd control. Similar to KAISA, Katarina's kit heavily revolves around pure damage. She is very hard to play, having to keep track of many different dagger positions, similarly to DRAVEN. Expect to take a while to learn her, and die while walking to a stray dagger. Don't worry, it's all part of the learning process. One-tricking Katarina is incredibly great because of the insanely high skill cap on the champion. To be honest, it's difficult to tell if she's completely balanced or not on Wild Rift because many players have only just begun to tap into her potential. She's like preteen Gohan, before he went Super Saiyan 2 against Cell. Many underestimate her power, but given the right conditions, she can absolutely overwhelm the enemy. Upon takedowns, Katarina refreshes her cooldowns by 15 seconds. This cooldown refreshing mechanic is one that is prevalent in many other champions as well, such as Darius, Tristana, and Master Yi. Therefore, by one-tricking Katarina, the specific mechanics can be applied for other roles as well. Now, of course, if you have a specific champion not on the list to one-trick, don't hesitate to let us know who you guys are playing. This list is only here to help those who are looking for additional champions to add to their champion pool. As per usual, thank you guys for watching, and be sure to address the question of the day in the comments down below. And subscribe for more Wild Rift content. Take care, and I'll see you later. That is a lot of ways to say bye. That is a lot of sign-offs.